Aloha! It's 365 Hawaii.
With Eric and Julie Ziemelis, and behind us is a waterfall at the Outrigger here in Keauhou. And why are we here today, Eric?
Well, we're here because back in 2005, that's when we first got to this island, and we spent a lot of time at this hotel, kind of around the grounds, checking it out. So we thought this would be a good place to come back to go over our new video, which is the 5 things you must know when you move to Hawaii.
Right, and one of the things that we came up with this idea is we've been talking to a lot of newbies recently about what they're having problems with in terms of trying to get their act together here on the island. And we have some answers for you to make your life here and fitting in a little easier.
So let's bring you along and tackle some of those tough questions.
Right, well, you get a chance to see the beautiful grounds of the Keauhou Outrigger.
Okay, one thing about being in Hawaii is it's sort of like every day is like paradise. At least that's the predominant theme when you first move here, that you're just going to be living this perfect life.
It's like swinging on a hammock every day.
And it almost gets a little bit like Groundhog Day at the same time, because every day the temperature swing between winter and summer is only 10 degrees. And it's not like in the winter here in Kona it rains that much more than it does in the summer. It's pretty consistent. A little bit hotter, but that's just how it is. So if you're used to having, you love Christmas and you've got all the Christmas decorations coming up, and then you've got, the 4th of July is a big thing for you, and all these different holidays. Well, we have them, but they're all kind of flat. So it gives you kind of a, if you're looking for the highs and the lows and everything like that, this is not quite the place. It's definitely more consistent.
Right, and you know what, I was traveling with some friends the other day, and they were talking about how the sun doesn't set sometimes until like almost 10 o'clock at night, or the morning doesn't start till 7:30 in the morning, and that does change your experience day to day, where every day in Kona is a day that you're having dinner at sunset, because it's like this. So that also puts you in a position where you're putting your kids to get you to bed at the same time, or you're going to bed yourself. So the joke was that every night seems the same night. It's like you go to bed at 9 o'clock and you wake up at 6:30 in the morning, and that's your day every day.
And every day is, you wake up with the sun rises and you go to bed shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's so different from the mainland. But here,
Yeah.
you kind of get used to it. But you have to be used to being very consistent, which could be almost boring.
Right. So that could be a bad thing or it could be a good thing.
Okay, let's talk about one of the things that affects a lot of people here and is a big reason why a lot of people can't stay on the island. And that is loneliness.
And isn't this a great spot to talk about that, out on a lava field? Because that's where you're going to be on this island. It's basically on a big lava field in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, about 2,500 miles away from just everything you've known before you got here.
Right, and this goes back to a lot of people have family on the mainland, and they usually their family usually didn't come with them because it's too hard for entire families to come in, generational families. So usually people come by themselves, and then when they're here, they miss their families.
And they can't figure out how to actually fit in. And one of the reasons why we created the 365 Kona Newbies group, and the 365 Hilo Newbies group, and the 365 Kahala Newbies group, is because so many people felt that they just couldn't figure out a way to make community and friends happen. So what we did was we wanted to create opportunities for events and newbies helping newbies by having older newbies tell newbies about what they can experience on this island that they might not have thought of. And I'll tell you guys, plenty of people come here, they run out the concept of vacation after, I'd say only a few short months, right?
Yeah, that goes pretty quick, yeah.
And then all of a sudden life actually sets in, and then they find that they don't know anybody. And then if something happens to you, like you're sick or your car breaks down or whatever, then you have no one to call. So making it an intentional experience to meet people.
And a good way of doing that is volunteerism. And that's what we definitely promote, is that if you go out there and you make all these different things count, you can meet people. That's the security waving to us right now.
Yeah, and also joining the Keauhou Canoe Club, right here, goes right out of the bay, joining different organizations. It's something that you have to do. When Eric and I first moved here, we were lonely. And I know, of course, that's before the internet, it seems. Nobody said that was like something to worry about, but it is something to worry about, because you've just spent a whole lot of time and energy getting rid of all your things, and then you move here, and then you're miserable because you have no one to share it with. And again, you guys can come with your couples, or you can come with your children. Like Eric and I say that, yeah, you circle the wagon around your family a little bit more. But if you are not used to being in a place where you don't know anybody, it definitely is an issue.
And I think also it also is compounded because, as you know, Hawaii is 2,500 miles away from anywhere. So it's definitely, you really feel like you are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And if you're lonely and feel like you're in the Pacific Ocean, it makes it even worse because there's definitely a remoteness that you feel here when you live here. It just definitely feels like there's nothing past there. And there's not, like example, we live on the Kona side. There's only, 50 or 60,000 people on this side of the island. Not a lot of people.
Right. And so I would say that our friends that have lived here the longest, the ones that are most successful, are the ones that have gone out and they are, volunteering at Reef Teach, or they've joined the softball game, or they're absolutely totally involved in outrigger canoeing. They also have found a good group of friends, and they make it a point to do game nights or going out to dinner. And like I was talking about, doing these events, like there's festivals on the island, we put on events, but you have to be able to keep showing up for the people to actually know that you're there so that you'll make some friends and have some community.
But I will say this, on the other side though, if you can make friends, those friends are pretty darn loyal because they know what it's like to be out here alone as well. So if you need something, everybody does step up and give you a hand. That's the beauty of it, is that there's it's kind of like your Hanai family that is not totally a real family, but it acts like one.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I'm not trying to bag on Californians, but I just spent some time in Oregon and talking to some people from Vermont who they say that they're tough people, but when something happens, they all come together. They don't need each other all the time, but they work together. And sometimes Californians have a way of not even knowing their next door neighbor. And so you actually have to not have that attitude here, because you actually, again, have to greet people and go out of your way to show a little aloha and to show that you actually are interested in meeting people. And it doesn't mean you have to hang on them for all of your needs. Just they're there for each other. And also, you know what, people who move to Hawaii are a certain breed, and they're pretty cool. And if you actually start conversations with somebody about what was it like for them to leave everything that they left behind, why were they drawn to the island, most of these people that we talk to have some kind of spiritual connection. Start these little things. Everyone has something in common on this island. We all moved here.
It's kind of like getting married. Everybody's got a story about getting married or having kids or being a kid or whatever. Everybody's got some sort of story, and it's always interesting to hear these different stories about that.
And talking story with the people who have been here for a long time, and people who have the cultural values of the island. It's a good way for you to get to know more about the island that you've just chosen to live in. And again, it just makes you feel more connected, and you won't be lonely. Oh, hey. So over here is the chapel on the grounds of the Outrigger. And we brought you here to this part of the grounds is because we're going to talk to you a little bit about relationships. And let's lean in for this one here. If you come thinking that you are going to have the most amazing experience, because somehow you will just find what you found when you were doing honeymoons and vacations, you're not going to find it, because
you can't live like that.
Nope. And everywhere you go, there you are.
Yeah, there you are. Everywhere you go, there you are. I'll say it again because it's a good statement.
So tell them a little bit about how people come
so
save themselves.
We've seen a lot of people that come here with the idea that they're going to save their marriage by coming to Hawaii, and by starting all again, having other pressures of home, that everything will be okay. And then I'll give you an example. There's a couple that came here and they got ready to come here for 2 months. They had a motorhome trip all the way across the United States to get to drop their car off, and then they were going to come over here and life was going to be great.
And they were having marital problems before they did that. They were having
marital problems before that. And by the time they got here, they only lasted 8 months, and then they ended up getting divorced, right? And the answer is you can't change who you are. So just knowing that if you're coming here with the idea that, okay, I'm going to become a completely different person, well, maybe the circumstances are going to change to make you that better person, but it might not solve your relationship problems.
Right. And so also when we were talking about your children, just because you want your kids to maybe be surf stars or to enjoy the nature of the island, and they were playing video games back on the mainland, again, whoever you are, there you go, because they're not going to obviously change into these nature-loving bodyboarders. Maybe they'll pick up the sport, but again, you just have to just kind of be careful of your expectations of how Hawaii, what you would do on vacation and how you feel coming home after a vacation, is not the way it always is when you are living here full time.
Right, and then also we could talk about there's this point where you find a center balance point from being here. Like, so the good side, if you kind of got your stuff together, that you can kind of you feel kind of a Zen balance, and if you're sort of spiritual, it tends to come, maybe I would say, almost a little easier. And I would describe being in Hawaii as sort of is walking on the edge of a fence. And if you're good at it, it flows easily, and there's no problems, and your life will flow very smoothly. If you have problems and you fall off the fence, then it takes you a lot of time and energy to get back up there. So it's one of those sort of analogies of what it's like to live here, and to not let yourself get pushed around by the craziness of the spiritualities that are on this island.
Right. In fact, the spiritual and energetic experience on this island sometimes will have a tendency to push you even a little bit further. And so we've seen people who had thought that they had kicked drug habits and alcoholism, and they come down here, and again, going back to loneliness, they start falling back into their old patterns because, again, they are who they are. So again, this is not magical unicorns and rainbows that somehow fix you in your personality. You definitely could find spiritual enlightenment here by being here, right? You're going to learn resiliency and some grit, because things aren't always going to be very easy for you. But you can become a better person through just letting go and just letting the island basically give you what you need. But also knowing that if you think that it's completely changing your relationship with your family and your spouse, most probably not. Okay, a lot of the times when you were reading through Facebook groups and things like that, and people are trying to figure out how, they're basically getting suggestions from people who live here for a long time. I think one of the top ones I always hear is, don't change the island, let the island change you. And the longer you live here, the more you realize what that truly means. But from the outside, you're like, well, what does that mean? So we're going to discuss that with you real quick.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this. You need to learn how to fit into the island lifestyle, and that's, I always sort of kind of go back to, there's a spirituality on Hawaii Island, and there's an aloha spirit, and part of that is learning to embrace this instead of coming with it's the we is greater than the I guess you'd say.
That's a very good one. I like that.
Is how you would describe that, and the collective really makes a difference versus the single person. And it goes back in the old days when you're out there on the farm out in the middle of the country, you had to work mighty hard to make things work, and it's not that way here. It's a different. You still have to work hard, but you kind of have a collective instead of you being the individual.
Yeah, it's very anti-American, actually. So during the pandemic, a lot of people on the islands actually put a mask on, because we do have kind of like a Japanese culture here of everybody just do what what works for everybody else around us. And again, from when we're from America, sometimes it's like it's don't tread on me and don't tell me what to do. So there's that overriding concept here, is that it's definitely one of a society instead of individualism, but also in the individualism of American capitalism. I love showy, expensive things to make myself stand out doesn't quite work here.
That's right. You can see there's definitely you don't need a really fancy car here, and there are people that come with their very
Lamborghinis,
cool BMWs, Lamborghinis,
even their Teslas.
It's all right, but it just kind of sticks out here a little bit that it's just not quite the way the culture is.
Yeah, it's funny though, because people like to stick out in big cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and because they want to have people think that they're cool.
Yeah.
That is the exact opposite of what you're going to get here. People are going to just think that you don't know the culture.
Yeah, and here it's definitely, and the whole culture again is about it's much more Eastern, right? And it's much more calm. But the beauty is you don't feel like keeping up with the Joneses. It doesn't take place as much, and you don't feel like you have to get that car to fit in or something like that. We lived in California, and we did end up buying a BMW, and that didn't last long. It was enough of that.
So now we have a truck and a
Honda,
a CRV.
Yeah.
But also the concept of just anything that's like over the top, flashy. And one thing too, that in the Bay Area, when you first met somebody, one of the first questions they'd ask you is, what do you do for a living, and where do you live? Because they wanted to judge on how much money you made and that whole thing. That's not how it goes here. People say aloha, like, are you having a good day? Some of the people might say, what are your plans? I mean, it's like more about the lifestyle and a day-to-day thing, instead of trying to put you in a box to figure out what it is that you have that maybe they want to. That's not the way people talk and work here.
Yeah. So definitely something you should think about, and it's kind of like when you get here, kind of observe what's going on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's a little more tricky. We've had a lot of Western state transplants lately, so it's a little. You kind of have to look a little bit to find that true Hawaii feeling that has been there. But if you look, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
Is what you will.
But one thing too about people coming over from the West Coast is definitely that go, 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 go. And I'm working with two women who have moved here recently who are very nice people, but they get very, very frustrated on how things are done around here. And between the DMV, getting things done, getting your permits, getting your contractor, getting this, getting that, if you're not learning patience, patience is, like, I'd say the #1 thing that you need to have on this island. And sometimes in some of the big cities where you can snap your fingers and things show up for you, that's not usually happening here. And if your frustration just keeps going on and on, first of all, it'd be very difficult for you to make friends because all you do is complain about what's not here. But also the fact is then you become just unsettled, and this island isn't for you. And so people leave when they keep doing the whole, like, why isn't this showing up for me? It's like, show up for yourself and be part of the island. And that kind of, that just breathe and be part of, like, what's just happening around you and take moment by moment. I'd say my most successful people are usually, like, and again, you guys know, I'm not exactly the most calm Zen human. Eric might be, but I certainly had my issues, and people basically told me to take my Silicon Valley attitude and get them freaking back home. And I've said inappropriate things like, why don't they do a better job at building the downtown to make it look more new? And people were like, oh my gosh, please go back to California. So it's kind of accept what is already here and embrace it and celebrate it, because change is very slow here, and that makes people actually love Kona too.
Right, but at the same time, if you can sort of get into this, it's almost like a kind of like a yoga pose kind of thing. You're like, oh, okay, and if you can find that space, then your life just becomes more pleasant, easier to go. Everything goes easier.
Everything's nicer.
You don't have these problems, and it just works, right? So it's one of those. There's a reward for doing that.
And I'll tell you guys, when we were about to film this, a woman was carrying leis around the property, and she said, "Would you like a lei?" And of course, me as I'm like, "Oh, how much is it?" She's like, "It's free." I'm like, "That's the aloha spirit." And then you accept the lei and you give the little hug, and you know what? When you, even like with the lei giving, it's a gift, and you show gratitude, and you're happy for it, and you know what, you take it as the gift that it is. And I think that's another thing too, that in Hawaii you slow down enough to realize it is a gift and how much gratitude you have for it, where I think on the mainland sometimes things are going so fast. Again, well, you might say, I don't need that around my neck, thank you very much.
And I think that if you can slow down, then you're more grateful for everything. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it goes back to those monks in the cave that sit there and meditate for hours on end.
Here it's like this. I have the ocean in front of me. I have these beautiful natural smells and aromas and birds chirping and everything else, and kind of just go like this. I'm so happy to be here. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, how expensive it is in the grocery store. How come they're not, there's no Trader Joe's here or Whole Foods. So definitely getting Zen is something that's going to definitely help you be successful in your life here.
All right, one of the places that we're standing here right now used to be a pond, and it used to be for the wedding chapel, and you would get on your little boat and you would come around and they'd drop you right off over at the old thing. But that was before our time, actually.
Yeah.
Pre-2005 is what that was.
Just give me a little history about the space we're standing in. And then this is a beautiful, little octagon thing, and people used to be able to wave to their little wedding guests and stuff. But anyway, what we're talking about next is
So one thing we're talking about is the one thing that are shocked at, and I know you guys have heard this before, and how expensive the island is. And you're like, yeah, we've seen the food prices. We know it's $9 for a gallon of milk.
Well, it's not always $9 for a gallon of milk.
Okay, it could be less, it could be more, depending on what it is. But what we just want to hammer this point home is that because there's a lot of other costs that are also expensive besides just the food costs. And then when you start adding all of those costs together, it gets really expensive. A good example of that is just to get over here, a container can be $20,000 or $30,000 to ship a container of your furniture here. And, and your car is $1,800 to ship over here from the West Coast. So it kind of starts giving an idea. These are just a few of the small details, but if you start putting it together, and because we're social, we end up going out a little bit to different restaurants, and restaurants are, you know, $50 per person is pretty standard for a meal, if not more.
Yeah.
So it just kind of gives you an idea of how expensive it is here.
Yeah, but also if you guys think that you live in one of the other big cities where you think that it's expensive, one thing that's happening here, and interesting how we're sitting here in Keauhou, because this happens specifically in Keauhou and Kona, because it's a tourist experience, that the prices in the grocery stores reflect that people come here after saving all year long and they're blowing $300 or $400 at the grocery store. Well, those of us who live here are dealing with those same prices
all the time. So well, that's kind of the joke, is that, you know, everybody saves up for 2 weeks and they spend their money and go, oh, it wasn't that expensive when you're on vacation. But for us, every week is like being on vacation.
Yes.
And we don't quite have the salaries to kind of back up that you know, we didn't have save 52 weeks to get on that vacation one.
Yeah. So one thing that we were talking about too, some of our friends are over in the Hilo side, and they come over quite often to the Kona side, is that most people don't even understand how expensive it is to actually go to vacation up in the Waikoloa Resort area, just because it's so expensive with all the restaurants and everything else up there. There are little pockets of affordability, you could say. Like up there is the Island Gourmet,
Yep.
which is basically a glorified ABC store.
You know, we have lots of ABC stores down here. We have 4. So.
Right, and also you can go to Hilo, where the people who on this island actually live there full time and they're not a bunch of tourists. They actually have a little bit more affordable food than we do on our side. But we'll give you a little tip. They told us this too, that Saturdays has Safeway has $5 Fridays, and people in Hilo know this, and so they line up for the Colby beef ribs, like
Yep.
it's going out of style on that side. We're here where the tourists really aren't tuned into the old $5 experience.
Nobody's really paying attention.
Nobody's lining up. So if
Yeah.
you want your $5 sub, your $5 pizza, your $5 Colby ribs, go to Safeway. But getting here and just being part of the budgeting experience is probably a little bit more
and
stressful.
So I can add a little to that. The people that are going to retire and they set a certain amount of budget to live on, it's usually too low. And a lot of people we know that have retired have had to get a job back to sort of support themselves, just because of the costs are much higher than they were expecting.
Right, and if you see people in our Costco who are older with these small-time jobs, Costco actually provides health insurance. So people look for the health insurance benefit to make their dollars run a little bit better here in Kona. And also people just take on second jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I think sometimes when people retire and they're just bored anyway, having a second job isn't bad. Some extra spending money, meet some people. But we're just basically letting you guys know, because I'm sure you guys have watched your share of pros and cons videos about Hawaii.
That says how
and people
expensive
say
it
it's
is.
expensive, wah, wah. Well, you know what? It is.
We're really drilling that point in on this one. Okay, one of the other things that would be important to know while being here is about staying healthy. If you can stay healthy, your life is much, much better than it is if you don't.
And then take your vitamins, and that's good.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the fact that, again, you might have heard that Hawaii has its issues with healthcare services, and people who are not healthy don't last very long on this island.
Right. Remember, we're an outer island, and we don't have the services, particularly on Kona side, just because there's just not enough people to support them. So anything that goes wrong with you, you're on an airplane going to Honolulu.
Or you're back on the mainland
Or
going
you
to
end up
your
living-
favorite
yeah.
healthcare center that deals with your chronic illnesses.
But that's not what this video is about.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that when you guys see that Hawaii is the healthiest state in the nation, is because we are able to be outside a lot all the time, every day. We don't have, you know, like I said,
I'll tell you, there's days that I was going to go running and I'm like, oh, I can't not go running because it's pretty much always sunny here. So you're like, all right, I'm going to go running today. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and you know, like right next to us is the bay. People go swimming. There's so many different ways of staying in shape and being healthy here. And I like to feel that now people are not just healthy, they're happy here, because they get a chance to get outside and be part of, you know, getting into the ocean or going up into the mountains or going for walks around the area. So part of the lifestyle, wrapping back to our lifestyle thing, is being able to get outside, get, you know, your exercise in, find people so you can, you know, do that with.
And one more thing to add to that is eating healthy too.
Oh, that's right.
And we have a lot of fresh everything. You know, wherever we are, if you just go to any of the farmers market, even the grocery stores have a lot of really fresh food.
Yeah, so I think we eat better here too, right?
Yes,
yeah.
definitely.
And so it's like it's so you have an intention of staying healthy, but I think this island helps you with that intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely it's a focus of a long life on this island.
And getting back to that, if you like junk food and things like that, Number one, there are not a lot of fast food restaurants. You have to really go out of your way to find a fast food restaurant, and it's usually not. There's not very many people working there, so it's difficult. And it's also usually more expensive for the fast food, and even just going and buying cheap packaged food.
Yeah, the packaged foods because they all have to be shipped in.
Yeah,
right.
So it makes it you're much better just eating some good old-fashioned things that come off the tree,
like a banana, or mangoes, or
mangoes,
papayas,
whatever.
or dragon fruit, or so health. It's important. Okay, so we've given you like the top 5 or 6 things to know to be happy on this island.
a good starting point, I would say.
Good starting point. And we have also, if you guys have seen other videos that we've done, and there's other ones that we can't just miss some of the ones that people are going to say, well, what about? So we're going to give you a quick litany of the things that yes, you do need to know about to be happy on this island. Give them a couple.
I'll start with the first one. Everybody talks about the bugs on the island. That's a good one. Pests and things like that.
So was that like the cockroaches, the rats,
the centipedes, all those
So we
kind
always
of
joke and say when you're starting to freak out about seeing bugs that you are moving to a tropical island, and people go, what would they think was going to happen?
Yeah.
On your resorts like this, they keep the coqui frogs down or the cockroaches, or whatever. Well, when you move here and you live anywhere outside the resort zone, you're going to see things that are alive and they creep and crawl inside your house.
That's right.
So that's fine. I'd say also that the lava. You guys see behind us? This is a volcanic island, and we have a lot of lava on Big Island. We've had people say sometimes, where's the green? So you can find it around the island, but when people especially come to Keoho or fly into the island, they always go like this. I didn't realize it was going to be so lava-like.
And not only the lava as in the lava that's on the ground, but there's a lava that comes out of the craters, the Halemaumau crater, and that turns into fog, particularly on the west side. You guys on the east side don't have any problems. It's all good. The wind comes around this way.
Yeah.
But that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, and the fog is a volcanic fog that
Yep.
sometimes happens here. What else is like kind of like a hot topic? Obviously, the housing is expensive.
Well, it's not only is it expensive, but it's really hard to find too. We do not have enough, particularly on the west side. We don't have enough housing to have everybody there. So anytime something comes up, it's gone pretty.
Yeah, and we talk about
Rentals
housing because we're realtors. And if you want to know more about the real estate market on the whole island and anything in your price range, expensive isn't expensive to everybody.
Yep.
And also by the things that we've just told you, if you do find yourself thinking that you want to live on an island and get away from it all and not have homeless issues and all the things that have the lifestyle of this island, then obviously this might be for you and we'd like to help you.
Yeah, and we're pretty good at knowing. We have definitely a lot of local knowledge, as we would say.
Yep, and we have great resources as well. And so I don't want people to think this is a big fat commercial for buying a house here, so we're not going to do that. But we will put information down below if you guys need some help with real estate. We work with Keller Williams Realty. And also, if you want to drop some comments down below about what you think people need to know about moving here or some of your questions you may have. We also do Zoom calls with people to try and give them a heads up on what real life looks like here to make them as successful as possible.
Yep.
And so we would like you to subscribe if you like this content.
Lastly, if you like our content, please subscribe, because the more subscribers you are, the better off life is and the more power we have with YouTube, and it makes it easier to get our videos out there is what it does.
Right, and we're just trying to help people before they make a very expensive adventure. We always trying to make sure that you guys have the information you need to be making intelligent decisions based on local knowledge.
Yep.
And so we hope to see you on our next video.
And with that,
We say aloha.
aloha.